Week 10 waiver wire pickups, additions, and streamers, baby. Let's get it. What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Tap. My name is Michael, and this is John, and we are a fantasy football podcast. Woo! Woo! Woo!
Synchronized.
Woo! Yes, sir.
Synchronicity.
Love it. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm winning a lot of fantasy football, and that's always a great way to start your Monday. Just need Najee Harris and Darnell Mooney to pull it off for me, and I have almost a perfect week. And when you're doing 7+ leagues, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yep. I'm doing terrible this week. Terrible. I had a lot of Kyler Murray, a lot of DeAndre Hopkins shares, so that kind of bit me in the butt. But hey, I'll bounce back next week. Not too worried about it. Most leagues I'm sitting pretty, so just got to move on to next week. So anyways, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we have our week 10 waiver wire pickups. Can't believe we're halfway through the season.
Move so quick.
Crazy. And then we also have streaming options for you. Just a reminder, bye weeks this week, the Bengals and the Giants. Bengals need it. They need to get their crap together.
Yeah, Bengals have looked absolutely terrible the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, not good there in Cincinnati. So, anyways, let's just jump right into it. We've got Matt Ryan as our first streaming option at tight end, at quarterback. You can play him in tight end if you want, I guess.
No, do not play Matt Ryan at tight end. That is a terrible idea. I do not see him catching many passes.
Well, yeah, true. So anyways, he's going up against Dallas this week. Dallas did not look very good this week at all. Matt Ryan put up a clinic though against New Orleans. Thrown for 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interception, and even ran for a touchdown. What?
Showing that rushing upside, you got to love Matt Ryan, especially in that mid-season form. No Calvin Ridley getting the young guys involved. Russell Gage, Cole Patterson, Olamide Zaccheaus. Not much of Kyle Pitts, though. And absolutely no Mike Davis. But I do think Matt Ryan going up against the Dallas Cowboys, especially if the Cowboys decide to play like they did against the Broncos this week, we can look for Matt Ryan to put an easy 350 against them and a couple touchdowns under his belt.
100 agree. 100% agree. Cowboys are one of the worst in the league against the quarterback as far as fantasy points go. So I think it's gonna be a good week for Matt Ryan. Let's move on over to somebody. Like I said, I've been saying it. Sneaky consistency as far as fantasy points goes, and really just in general. He's the quarterback 11. Overall, or quarterback 10, I'm sorry, overall player 11. He has only had one bust game, I would say. One bust game. Everything else has been super consistent, and that is Carson Wentz. Got a great matchup this week going up against Jacksonville, even though we thought it was a good matchup for Josh Allen. I think Carson Wentz continues on. He shows he does have rushing upside on occasions. Can get in the end zone if needed, and has been throwing, touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. Looking good.
Yeah, I'd say so. He's got 17 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions so far this season. Has lost 3 fumbles. That's only going to be 6 turnovers on those 17 touchdowns. 18 if you include that little rushing touchdown he got back in week, I believe it was 7. But I think Carson Wentz is still on a very, very strong role here, especially with Jonathan Taylor. It's like been a nice little Derek backfield, and the Michael Pittman being able to stay open across the middle has just been absolutely great. I think Carson Wentz is looking for an absolutely beautiful streaming quarterback this week. I don't see Jacksonville being able to put up 2 weeks in a row of being able to stop high-end offenses. So look for Jacksonville to take a step back, not being able to roll on those turnovers they were lucky enough to get last week, and watch Carson Wentz just dominate.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Honestly, I am very surprised his own percentage. Only 50.1% owned. So I think he should be higher owned. I mean, he's a top 12 quarterback. He so far this season, he has been a set and forget quarterback.
Yeah.
Like looking at everything, it's crazy.
I would say
I mean,
so.
looking at his points, I mean, I would be very happy if Carson Wentz was my starting quarterback just because the consistency. Looking back at it. So
Yeah.
Teddy B playing Philadelphia. Philadelphia is no bueno. But Teddy Bridgewater coming off of really in general, the whole Broncos offense, but coming off of a good week, just under 250 passing yards, a touchdown and a rushing touchdown. He's got Jerry Jeudy back, Cortland Sutton's there, and he's got two great running backs he can lean on. They've been very good. Javonte Williams looked really good this week, putting up 111 rushing yards. Woo!
Yeah, I think it was his first game of doing that. Melvin Gordon was right behind him as well, doing pretty solid on the ground as well as that pass catching work. Really opens up the groundwork for Teddy Bridgewater to play amazing, as well as having Jerry Jeudy back. Tim Patrick able to step up with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy in there. So those receivers really putting a lot of work in for Teddy B. We saw last year he made almost 3 receivers possible for 1,000 yards. Maybe he's able to do it in Denver. And I think this week against Philadelphia, we're looking at something great. They've been allowing 22.8 points to the quarterback. And that's not even including the points they allowed to the Chargers this week. So we're going to have to see what that averages out to next time. But pretty happy for it. I think Teddy B is going to be a GOAT this week.
Yeah. So let's move on over to the running back. And I can't believe there's a couple names on here. There's 4 names on here. Like, it's throwback season, baby. First off, Jordan Howard, 8.5% owned, getting 17 touches this week. 40% of the snap share, got in the end zone, which kind of saved his week. As far as points go, he was pretty consistent and efficient, sitting at 4.18 yards per carry. If he can lead his backfield again against Denver, I mean, he could be a sneaky flex option. I just can't believe we're talking about Jordan Howard again.
Me either. We are only 9 days away, or 9 days since Miles Sanders has been put on IR, meaning that we got at least 2 more games of these backup running backs, or quote unquote second string running backs in Philadelphia. And it does look like, even though we weren't sure of it coming into last week, that Jordan Howard is going to be a viable threat in this offense. So I think we can look forward to him taking over a strong share there. Boston Scott was someone that was expected to be, the next guy up, the next man up, and doing that. But Jordan Howard did out-touch him as well as out-carry him on those touches. So I think we're going to be seeing some more of him.
I agree. As far as and just to touch on this, as far as Kenneth Gainwell goes, he's highly owned. He's droppable at this point. Just so you guys know, in my opinion, he's two rushing attempts, and a touchdown.
I wouldn't.
I'd rather have Boston Scott or Jordan Howard right now than Kenneth Gainwell.
I think it depends. There's a lot of situations you could be in here. I think Kenneth Gainwell, if you've got the roster spots, worth the hold still. If Miles Sanders comes back and they decide to go back to that same offense they were running the beginning half of the year when their team was actually looking pretty solid, Kenneth Gainwell could still have some flex appeal. But as of lately, he's right on the verge of droppable.
All right. Another guy I can't believe we're talking about. Flashback to like 2016. Devonta Freeman owned in 13.8% of leagues. Got the lion's share of the backfield this week. And as of now, they're playing the Dolphins, who are trash against the run. And as of now, it doesn't look like Latavius Murray is going to be ready for the return. So I think Devonta Freeman this week could be a very nice play as far as, running backs go, against a very poor defense and just, getting the majority of the touches there.
Yeah, he did play 58% of the snaps this week, got 20% of the carries. And that leaves Le'Veon Bell backing him up if we don't see any Lat Murray coming in this week. And Le'Veon Bell on this list as well, currently owned in 4% of leagues, meaning that he should be readily available for every single one of you out there. But he did come in with about 20% of the snap share, 5.5%, and then 15% of the carries. So it does look like there's a possibility that Freeman may be the lead back, but also some running back by committee going on here with Lamar Jackson being the number one rusher on that team anyways. But I do think that both of these guys do carry some flex appeal moving forward, and it's just going to be a little wait and see and understand your risk when you throw them in there.
Yep, 100%. Pat Fryermuth touchdown, by the way. Devonta Freeman, Le'Veon Bell, like you said, both guys you should have on your roster, see if they're on the waivers. And, if I had to own one, it'd be Devonta Freeman. But I think Lev Bell, another guy that we were talking about, is rosterable as well. And then finally, before we move on to one of the new heads in town, Adrian Peterson, owned in 51.9% of leagues. They were comfortable with him. Like, from the get-go, they even ran the Wildcat with him. That's how he scored his touchdown. Wasn't the most efficient, but he got 10 carries. And I truly think that with how comfortable they were with him right off the bat, I think he's in line for more carries.
Yeah. Got 24% of the carries last week. So, yeah, I think that on a guy that hasn't played football in months, hasn't been on the team all season, and just came in and automatically got a quarter of their carries in that offense means that you're looking for someone that can be taken over a much larger share after a full week of practice going in behind him. So, yeah, Adrian Peterson, 51% owned, is someone that should be a must grab in your leagues, especially if you're sitting weak at the running backs. I think AP is going to be somewhat of a consistent, strong flex option moving forward.
So, and then finally, our last guy, Ty Johnson, baby. Ty Johnson with the New York Jets. He's been consistent the last 4 weeks. He's either gotten in the end zone or he's gotten in the end zone 3 of the last 4 weeks, or he's gotten the yards and the catches necessary. He's currently a fringe. He's a high-end wide receiver, or running back 4, fringe running back 3 on the season. He's got tremendous, pass catching upside. It's going to be a tough matchup for him this week, so I don't see him being a viable option. But after that, he plays Miami, Houston, Philadelphia. A 3-game ranked game stretch of some nice matchups.
Yeah, I think he's someone that you want to pick up and hold, especially as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. If you guys haven't already passed it in your leagues, someone that might have more value, if so fact that guys like Michael Carter go down, one of the other 10 running backs they have in their backfield. But realistically, Ty Johnson showed some sort of consistency over the past a lot of production, very efficient with the touches that he's gotten. So if he does get more opportunity, we're looking at a pretty good situation for him.
Moving over to the wide receivers, we're going to stick with the Jets. Elijah Moore only owned in 15.3% of leagues. Worth the pickup. Got 8 targets. He's had the last 3 weeks. He's had very consistent target share. 6, 6, and 8 targets. Obviously, week 7, he only caught one of those. Last week though, he caught all 6. He was one of my favorite receivers coming out of this draft. I still think he's going to be a very, very good, one of the top receivers from this draft. And I think as we, especially if Mike White can stay in as QB, I think he has some very high or very good fantasy value this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Elijah Moore definitely just had that breakout game, and we are seeing some actual good-looking offense coming out of New York for the Jets ever since Zach Wilson left, regardless of what quarterback comes into backup for them, Mike White or Tyler Johnson, whoever the hell that was that came in this week. That offense does look in a much better position. Now, something I just want to point out, Keelan Cole, he did not have the best fantasy day, but this man had one of the best catches of the week that was called back last week. And then this week again had another deep ball ruined because of a penalty. Keelan Cole's been getting the targets and getting those deep targets. So I think he's another name that you kind of want to keep an eye on and possibly throw onto your roster if you've got the availability, just as a deep flex option on that boomer bust play. But he is starting to show flashes of being able to do it for you.
Yep. 100% agree. Donovan Peoples-Jones went three targets, 2 catches. One of them was a 60-yard touchdown, which really saved his week. However, with no OBJ there, I mean, he was earlier in the year, he was being talked about and hyped up, and he had a couple good games. I think he needs to be added to your roster because with no OBJ, he's definitely in line for, a bigger days, and they may not be the most consistent, but I do think he's in for some solid workload and some weeks of solid production.
Yeah, we did see it a little bit, especially when Jarvis Landry was out. Donovan Peoples was looking pretty solid. Targets do honestly look a little scary. That just comes on the fact that really all threw the ball 21 times this week. So if you really think about it, that target percentage is actually looking very, very strong. Got 1 out of 7 of every targets out there for Baker. So if that offense decides to stop forcing it to Nick Chubb, even when they're up 30 points, we might get some more production out of the receivers there. And I think DVP's Donovan Peoples-Jones, not DVP, the wrong DVP, is going to be a very solid option as the number 2 receiver in that offense.
Yep. Let's move over to the Jaguars wide receiver 1, and that is Jamal Agnew. A name we didn't think we'd be talking about, but here we are. Very, very involved in this offense. He's just good in general. For this offense. Didn't have the best week this week, so it should be pretty easy to pick him up. But he's been so consistent as far as targets go and being involved in the offense. He is what Laviska Shenault should be.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd agree.
It sucks, but it is nice to see. He's very explosive, very, very explosive player, fun to watch, and it's obvious why they want to get the ball in his hands because he's explosive. So pick him up.
I think that's one of those good deep roster ads if you're in a deeper league. So, and this guy was more put on here for our DFS guy, Hugh, because Hugh has been hyping him up the past 2 weeks. And I wanted to make sure that you guys got on the train before it's too late because he has been that number 1 receiving option the past 3 weeks there in Jacksonville.
So, Olamide Zaccheaus scored 2 touchdowns, which really helped his week. Went 3 for 58. In my opinion, he's owning less than 1% of leagues. This is a deep roster guy. He's going to have his up and down weeks. He's not going to be consistent or anything like that. So I think where he should be rostered because there is no Calvin Ridley currently. I don't know how his consistency is the only thing that worries me, but add him to your team in case the consistency does come.
Yeah, I think he's someone that you just want to take a shot on especially Ridley out. He has been targeted on those deep balls. He is that deep ball receiver there for the Atlanta Falcons. If Matt Ryan does decide to give him that role in a much more Calvin Ridley friendly situation, treat him more like that Ridley, give him that Ridley role, then you're looking for him to take a really strong step forward. Other than that, he's almost here too as well. Russell Gage out of Atlanta is another name that you guys are going to want to be picking up in this. Again, you're looking for that replacement. You want the number 1 receiving option in Atlanta, especially with Matt Ryan at quarterback. Russell Gage is only sitting at 2.6%. Again, not the most confident, consistent, week in, week out, set and forget starts, but people that have huge upside. And if you're in a situation where you need a flex play, they'll fill in very, very nicely.
Yeah, I think Russell Gage is the guy to own. But like I said, like you said, consistency is probably going to be all, his. And you also got Tajay Sharp there. He didn't do much this week. A lot of people expected him to, but another guy, I think between the 3 of these guys, one of them is going to have a pretty good week and the other 2, are going to be okay or meh. Yeah. So let's get over to Brandon Ayuk, baby. It was an Ayuk. We had an Ayuk sighting. Thank goodness.
Been needing
nice
it.
to see. 2 weeks in a row of 7 or more targets. Love that. Got in the end zone this week. Maybe this is his breakout week, and he says, you know what? I'm just going to tear it up for the rest of the year.
I hope so. This is 2 weeks in a row that he's gotten more than 7 targets. Hopefully he can keep up the trend. We did have a banged up Debo coming into the week, but we did have the reemergence of George Kittle as well happen this week. So I don't want to blame it all on, hey, this happened because Debo Samuel was a little bit banged up, but let's hope that now you can stay on this trend. He's only owned in 44% of leagues. If you guys played fantasy last year, you know the upside that can come along with this guy and what follows this name. If he does decide to, I don't even know if it's him. It might even be the team around him. But if that ball decides to go his way and they give him the opportunities, so
Tremendous
very
upside.
highly rosterable player. Yeah.
Tremendous upside. Another player with tremendous upside is Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman has been very consistent as far as targets go, getting 6, 6, and 8 now. He just needs to do a little bit more with those targets. But I want targets. More targets equals more opportunity. And Rashad Bateman's getting that. So, and I think there's going to be a turning point. This week it could happen going up against Miami. So Rashad Bateman, pick him up, only owned in 25% of leagues.
I think he's a huge must grab. This is only his 3rd game in the NFL. Remember, guys, he did miss the first 6 weeks due to some injuries, or first 5 weeks due to going on IR. We do not want to forget and expect that this offense is a one-trick pony with Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. I do think Rashad Bateman is going to start taking steps forward each and every week.
I agree. And then finally, our final wide receiver is Tim Patrick, only owned in 24.8% of leagues. Standard, especially. I think he's wide receiver 24 in standard. Even with the other guys around him, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, still got, five targets. Caught, 4 of them for 85 yards and a touchdown. He's really cemented a role in this offense. Highly undervalued and highly under rostered.
Highly under rostered. All right. Let's I think Tim Patrick's a great grab. Was kind of hesitant on this week, mainly due to Jeudy coming back and Sutton staying in. But he showed out and seemed to still be Teddy Bridgewater's very comfortable receiving option there. So grab him, and God forbid you do see a Sutton or a Jeudy go down. It just adds more value to that guy's name. So definitely someone you want to roster.
Yep, I agree. Let's talk about two tight ends real quick before we get to our main one, in my opinion. That's going to be Dan Arnold and Tyler Conklin. Dan Arnold only owned in 12.8%, and Tyler Conklin only owned in 47.6% of leagues. How are you feeling about these guys?
Well, I like Dan Arnold a lot, honestly. The guy's is the number 1 receiving option in Jacksonville the past 2 weeks. No questions asked. Has been an absolute monster, getting plenty of targets. Problem is he hasn't been getting a lot out of those targets. But I do think we're going to be seeing a strong trend that way. And I think he's someone that you want to be picking up or using as that streaming option. I think this is a good week to do it. Tyler Conklin as well, another guy that's been getting a lot of targets. He didn't have that big point day that I was predicting coming into this week, but the guy still got his 7 targets and 5 catches. For a tight end, you really can't ask for much more because those 20-yard chunk plays come when they come, and those touchdowns will just happen to find themselves. So you follow the targets, and with that, you're going to stick that way.
100%. 100% agree with you in what you said. So our next or final tight end, who's probably the pickup of the week, you're probably going to spend up on him. And that's going to be Logan Thomas. We were talking about him last week. Because, for his own percentage, I mean, it didn't increase too much. But 47.8% owned. That number is going to be a lot higher next week.
Yeah.
Coming off of IR, coming off of a bye week, it's going to be good to go. I think he's going to be the pickup of the week. And if you if you can get, or if you already have him or got him, you have a nice tight end, for the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely surprised that he's still only 47% owned though.
I know, I really am. People were waiting. They want to pick. That's why we said it last week. People didn't want to pick him up and just put him on the roster with a bye. If you could afford to do that, then you got him pretty cheap. So, and then finally, the Tennessee Titans defense going up against the New Orleans Saints, who didn't put up the best showing against the Atlanta Falcons. The Titans defense only owned in 8% of leagues. They are crushing it, especially lately, and against good teams too. Currently the 6th ranked defense this year. So it's a great matchup for them. They've been playing well. They've been getting sacks. They've been getting turnovers. They've even been scoring. They have 3 touchdowns on the year. So I love picking up the Titans defense this week.
Yeah, over the past 2 weeks, they've been out absolutely lights out and against some of the best offenses. And like you said, currently ranked, depending on scoring, either between the 6, 8, definitely a top 10 defense across all scoring formats in fantasy football. Every league does something a little bit different. So those numbers change very quickly, but they're still only owned in less than 10% of leagues and a top 10 defense in fantasy right now. So regardless, go pick them up. Even if they don't play them this week, which you should, against the New Orleans Saints, they have been very turnover friendly there in Tennessee. With a backup quarterback possibly again there, you're looking at a very good opportunity, and I'm very happy for Tennessee this week. And they might be a team you want to hold on to for the remaining season.
100%. So, all right, guys, that is it. That is our show. Thanks so much for tuning in. If y'all could smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that little bell for the notifications. Also, if you're listening to us on via podcast, if you guys, or the audio format, if you guys could leave us a review and 5 stars, that'd be great. Anyways, thanks so much for tuning in. John and I.
Thank you. See you guys.